in strange land especially, it is important to have congenial neighbours, and if these are from the mother or fatherland, so much the better. Hardships and even privation may be cheerfully borne when the friends that are dear are present to cheer and comfort.
A Christmas 1902 letter to potential British colonists offered a largely glowing account of life in Western Canada. Alice Rendell and her husband were British Barr Colonists. They might have been among those to read the letter and been drawn to immigrate. Arriving in Saskatoon in the spring of 1903, the Barr Colonists settled in the Lloydminster area. As the Rendells soon discovered, life in the West demanded cooperation among neighbours.
My dear friends, for days past we have been anxiously watching 7 huge prairie fires raging in the distance, fearing that a wind might bring heavy disaster to our homestead and town. The night of October the 20th was an anxious one, the terrible circle of fire closing around us. The general opinion was that we were safe for the night, but I couldn't sleep. The next morning, our worst fears were realized, and we knew that a few bouts would decide our fate. The only safeguard against prairie fires is a broad belt of ploughing all around your homestead. This my husband had done with the exception of one side, which, alas, was the very side towards which the fire was sweeping with awful rapidity. Needless to say, the plough was soon at work, and it was literally ploughing for dear life. Every available tub was filled with water, every sack collected together to beat out the flames when the time should come. Mr. Rendell, Barnes, and another man who was working for us were all on the alert, watching with intense eagerness all the different points. Meanwhile, within the house, I, together with Mrs. Falmouth, the wife of our postmaster, who is boarding with us for the winter, and Mrs. Bunyan, who nursed me when our little girl was born, stood gazing out of the window, horror-stricken at the awful sight that met our eyes. We each of us had 3 little children, and 1 each in our arms. We mustered 9 little ones, all under 6. We 3 women rushed out, and filling buckets with the clay and soil dug up from the foundation, we scattered it all over the ground immediately around the house. The wind was blowing a hurricane, bringing, or rather driving, the fire straight for us. The awful roar of the flames was enough to make the bravest shudder, and the smoke and smell stifling. Willie continued ploughing until absolutely compelled to stop owing to heat and smoke. Our 2 men, meanwhile, drenched our roof with water and, arming themselves with wet sacks, hurried to the weakest point where there was the least probability of the flames jumping the fire guard, which was only 150 yards off the house all around. We could do nothing more than wait with bated breath. After a hard fight, and after a short time of awful suspense and anxiety, my husband came back to us with the welcome assurance, all danger over, safe for another year. We were all too overjoyed for words, and after the dreadful strain of so many hours, you may pretty well guess what the reaction was like. The fire started by the Vermilion River and was waging for days before it reached us and swept on down towards Battleford. There's no doubt whatever but that our fire guard in a great measure saved the town life. Apart from the horror of it, it was a most wonderful sight. Of course, on the prairie you can see an enormous distance, and for 20 or 30 miles there was nothing but flames. How thankful we were that the fire reached us in the daytime and not at night. Thus ends my description of a prairie fire, and I earnestly trust I may never see another. Yours affectionately, Alice Rendell.
In letters to her friends in England, Alice Rendell always referred to her daughter, Miriam, the first child born in Lloydminster among the Barr Colonists, as the Little Canadian. Alice, her husband, Miriam, and all the rest of the family remained and thrived. Alice's grandchildren still live in Western Canada.